The boogeyman wears a t-shirt. It's handy that way. It doesn't cover up everything. Leaves nothing to imagination. All shades of blue is what he likes. Swinging vine to vines is so exhilarating. People like to stare. Except older ladies. They can't take a joke. Their childhood memories of boogeyman still fresh as daisies. Mumbling curses, they scram quickly away. It's the children who are captivated, like a worm on a hook. The fish scrutinizing every motion. Beware, little ones. This is no show for innocent minds to witness. Run fast. Yell loudly for mommy. Save your immortal soul. Jeanne Brousseau, communicating with the rest of me. The uncommon depths of a defiant artist.
I think the conversation today is going to be very different than the conversation we've had with John Aston, Dina Evans, and Michael Lydon, who we spoke to the other day, and some of our other former guests, because today we're going to be talking to an artist, a real artist, Jeanne Brousseau, who's a friend of ours. We know her when we were back in the Spiritual Center in Queens in the 1970s. That was a long time ago. And we're going to talk to her about her journey through the whole spiritual thing into the art thing, and see what that was all about in terms of her journey, just like we're talking to people about their journeys, and we have spoken about our own journeys. So it's all about the journey. So speaking of art, Jeanne, in our little, what we call pre-game warm-up, I said, today we're talking about an old friend of ours, Jeanne Brousseau, who we know way back in the day in Queens in the 70s. We were all members of the Spiritual Center. We all met there, and since then we've all gone our different ways, and now we like to come back and share our journeys. And I said, you have arrived in your own journey as a very successful artist in the so-called outsider art movement.
Right.
Okay. So you're featured in this magazine, and I want to read a few excerpts. But I also know I got this thing about your gallery. So you are with currently Hirschl and Adler Modern.
Right.
You're still with them because they had a little thing. So I'm just going to read this so people get a sense.
Okay, cool.
Of who you are.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about, whatever you want to talk about. So this is from Hirschl and Adler. So I guess this was a few years ago when they signed you up. So they put out a press release. Hirschl and Adler Modern Gallery in New York is proud to introduce the work of self-taught artist Jeanne Brousseau, born 1952. This represents the artist's debut before the general public, the first time these highly personal, intimate drawings have been seen outside her hometown of Penobscot, Maine, which is where you are right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Like many in that region, Brousseau farms and raises livestock, but is also known locally as a maker of offbeat crafts and as a first-rate knitter. And I know you are because we have some of your hats. You sent us some hats.
Yeah.
Have one inside. Okay. It wasn't until recently, however, that the sheer breadth of her creativity became known when she decided to tell her story and share her private drawings with the public. So up until this explosion, let's say, of your art, and you became very well known and very successful, and you're featured in this magazine, you basically did the artwork, but you weren't you weren't inclined to share it. So let's talk about that. What was the pivoting moment where you decided to go, like as they say, go public with your art?
Well, I met Nancy Winters, a local artist, I showed her one of my sketchbooks and she like flipped out, and that's when I learned about outsider art. I didn't know anything about it. So she interviewed me, basically kept asking me questions and learned my whole story. And then she wrote an essay about it and she mailed it out to about 6 galleries. And one of them was Hirschl and Adler. And they responded right away. And I sent him like some of my early work. Yeah, which is all I had at that point. It was in 2018. And then I started drawing like crazy in color. My early stuff is all black and white, most of it.
So let me just interrupt here a little bit, because in this winter 2022-23 edition, Raw Vision Outsider Art, you are featured. If there's a big feature article on your art, and I hope they can see. So this is what it looks like in color. I have a few more pages, and Jeanne, people who want to maybe follow up and see more of your art and artwork, do you have a website or anything? Or
just Google me as an artist or through the gallery. I'm all over the internet if you Google me.
So let me just read a little bit from the art and from the article, and then we can use that as a jumping off point for further discussion.
Okay.
So it's a really nice big article. But I just wanted to take a little excerpt. So Jeanne graduated from high school in 1970 and worked as a waitress, and then she met the man who became her first husband. He was a follower of Sri Chinmoy, a guru based in New York, 1971. The couple married, moved to the center. That's where we all met. We were all part of it. We have a wealth of experience. Okay. And then when you left there, let's see, you left there, but you continued. Here's the key, and this is the key which will tie a lot of our stories together. She continued her spiritual exploration, trying to understand the fragmented sense of self by seeking, going.
Yeah.
And then later on you discovered the art. And in fact, the title of the article is Communicating with the Rest of Me. So maybe we can talk about how you discovered art and your journey, or whatever you want to tell us about your journey. Go ahead.
Well, it was like I would go into a trance, and it was almost like automatic writing. I would draw like every night. I'd do 5 or 6 pages in the sketchbook. And then I'd go back and I'd look at them the next day and I'd sort of fill them in. I would see figures and faces and animals. And in the beginning, it was pretty muddled up. And it took a few years actually. But then I developed a style, my own style, and a language of the symbols of the animals, the colors became like my language. And I was writing about my trauma or my saving myself from it. Yeah.
And this came all about once you left Queens in 1977. You weren't doing this art when you were in Queens. It came later on.
I was sculpting when I was there. I've done sculpture
Didn't know that.
since I was in the center. I started in about 1994 with Rada. Rada got me into the clay.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
We went to New York and we saw a girl that had sculpted the group Kiss in Sculpey. Like they were like puppets. I think they were on one of their album covers. And that's when I started with the clay. And I learned silver jewelry when I was in the center. And that was a big important thing because later I did my own designs in metal for a few years. And my sculpture was featured in the last Outsider Art Fair. My little creatures, I sent you one, remember?
You sent me a creature.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the I love the creature. I love the creature. I'm gonna get this. You sent me one. I love your little creatures. So what's with all the creatures? I noticed in your drawer.
Well, they're protecting me. That's my protection. And in the beginning, I call it like the Holy Spirit. Like some of the abstract figures are like, it's me wanting someone to save me. It's about being saved, and protection. So like the dragons and the cats and the shape-shifting animals.
Your art is all about saving yourself. So there's this. Let's talk about that idea. Where did that emerge from? This idea. Okay, go ahead.
It took a while, but there's one. I'm pretty sure it's in the magazine. It's like me seeking revenge on my father.
Yes.
Okay, that one. So and that was like, it's so therapeutic because I was able to do that, and nobody knows that, nobody, it didn't hurt anybody, you know what I mean? It just allowed me to get my rage or my resentment. It just, and it made me kind of laugh about it, like, I'm getting back at him type of thing. And which they explain, I never actually did, get revenge or anything like that on him, but just the fact that I was able to control the situation with my father through my drawings. I could turn my back on him, or I could, send creatures after him or whatever, to to protect myself and to stop him, from whatever.
So these creatures that you created in your drawings are your self-protection, or are they also demons that you felt resided because of the behavior with your father?
I just started studying the tarot. I'm studying that, but and so we were talking, and I kept drawing the devil card, and one time my father, he sat my oldest sister and me down, and he started telling us what failures we were and how we had ruined his life and blah blah blah. And when I looked at him, I saw devils in his eyes. They were just dancing around in there, as clear as day. And and of course, when I'm in a situation, I'm shut down. I'm not reacting. I'm just like recording everything. I'm sitting there. I'm listening to what he's saying. I don't get upset, or I don't talk back to him or anything. I'm very passive. And we just sat there, and he told us this, how horrible we were, which he used to do a lot. I'd be with him, and he'd lie to people. We'd meet someone, we'd go to someone's house or something, and he'd start telling them how horrible I am, what an awful person I am. And I'm just, and they're looking at me, and I'm thinking inside, this little voice is going, what? Why is he saying that?
Wait, how old were you when he's saying this about you?
My whole life. He would tell people I would never amount to anything. And this I found out from one of my aunts. I called her up, and I was in a magazine. One of my gourds got in a magazine before, and I had to tell somebody, and I called my aunt, and she was like, and he said you'd never amount to anything. So I know it's true, because see, he was covering for himself by discrediting me. And my mother would tell me, she'd say, don't say that, people will think you're crazy. So everybody was covering for everybody else. And my older sister, she would never talk about it. And my other sister, she just, denied. She would never talk about it. So of course I was like, you know, I had to leave my family after a while. I just, you know, I couldn't understand it. I didn't understand why I felt powerless to do anything about it. I wasn't going to change them, and I just, it was just, I didn't know why it was happening to me. So I didn't want them, in my life.
And so when did you leave your family after this early
Well,
childhood
well,
abuse?
after I left New York, I got pregnant and had a relationship with the father of my children. And that lasted for 12 years. And I was around the family then. But things were never perfect or a happy family, nothing like that. It was a struggle. And my father, any man I was ever interested in, he would take them aside and he would say, she's crazy. He did it with Nat. He did it with the father of my children. And then they got abusive. The father of my children, he figured it's okay to abuse me then. He
And what
did
about
that.
Nat? Because Nat's such a great guy, and we know
No,
Nat.
Nat didn't believe it.
No,
No,
Nat wasn't buying that.
no, Nat didn't buy it.
Nat's such a beautiful guy. But
Yeah.
so, but let's take a step back, because you left your essentially abusive family, but then did you not? And I'm asking, did in a way you sort of traded that family for the family, the spiritual family we had, or thought we had in Queens? Was that
Yeah,
your experience?
that was like that. And then I started therapy in my 40s when my second marriage failed. I'm like, what is going on? And that started a journey of talk therapy. I did art therapy. I did shamanic work. I did massage. That helped a lot. And well, what I did was when I stopped relationships with my parents. But I became involved with Nat's father. I like replaced them. I went to my aunts. I had an aunt that I really liked. So even though I didn't have much to do with my real parents, I did with Nat's father and my aunt. And I just got supported that way.
Right. And of all these therapeutic modes, you tried the shamanic, the massage, the different, I guess, talk therapy, psychological. It seems that when you discovered the art, what you
Yeah.
so that's real. That was your real therapy, right?
Yeah.
In other
Yes,
words,
it
you
was
kind of
revealed it to myself.
you kind of blossomed. Prior to that, you were all kind of like
And
suppressing.
I've seen psychics, and there's one that I really liked, and she helped me so much because she said, because I'd say to her, "What happened to me?" And she'd say, "You don't need to know that. You're not in when someday when you're in a safe place, and maybe even after I've crossed over, you will know what happened to you." She said, "Just think of it like there's a room in your house, and you don't open the door, and you don't go in there. You don't have to know what's in there." So, but through my art, I've opened the door.
You
Obviously.
have opened the
Oh
door,
yeah, it's open.
and the art is dealing with
Yeah,
what popped out, what's
because it
popping out of the
because it,
room.
it I'll just draw something, and then I have this reaction to it, and I'm like, whoa. Well, that's what happened.
But
It's almost
Jean,
like it's talking to me.
Jean, is there still a curiosity there, even though the psychic told you you don't need to know anything about it? Is there still a kind of
This
rumbling
is
that goes
this
on
is only
underneath?
recently. This is like in October, the end of October, because there's only two of us left from the family. I have one other sister who has had nothing to do with me basically my whole life. we grew up, we shared a bedroom and grew up from 0 to 18, and I've never really looked at that relationship, but that's the key to it. I've opened that up and I've started looking at, because that's the blank door. That's the empty door. This other time when I was at Gary's for one of the reunions, um, I did a shamanic soul retrieval with one of the other disciples, ex-disciples. I'm trying to think of her name, the one that lives in Vancouver. And we went, and Nat was involved too. We were in one of Gary's bedrooms and she was drumming, and we went into trance, and Nat's job was to keep saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. He was like the anchor. And then I journeyed, and where I went was to a room in my cellar of my family home that I've always been scared of. There was a room downstairs with the door shut and everything. So that's where we went, and I went in there and I retrieved a lost part of myself. And then she brought us back. And I traveled as my spirit animal, which is the squirrel, red squirrel. And then Nat, he spaced out a little bit, and he said he could feel a jolt because she was touching him. So he could feel a jolt go from her to him to reminded him, oh yeah, I'm here, And so we came back and ended the, retrieval and everything. And I said to her, and then she told me what happened. She said, in my spirit animal appeared and she said, I saw this room and I just ripped it down. She said, I just attacked it and ripped it down. And I said, well, what is your spirit animal? And she said, the polar bear. So that was really cool. I'm this little tiny red squirrel. And there I am with a polar bear. And she just ripped that apart. And I went in and I felt that there was a younger version of part of me that was in that room. And I said, do you want to come with me? And they said, yes. And then they came with me because, that part of me was like that. There's part of me that can't talk. I can't tell people if I'm in pain, if they're hurting me, I can't say anything. So, which is bad. But that they were silent. I felt all along there was a silent part because I felt sometimes like I've had multiple personalities as I was growing up. Because if I was in a stressful situation, I would hear this voice. Somebody was questioning me about something one time, and I heard myself answer them and say something. But also inside is this other voice going, "Who said that?" Who said that? And I'm like, well, it was just weird. But I've sort of, incorporated all those personalities throughout my life. I feel like, I've done that.
It makes great sense. But
oh my God.
what I'm wondering is, so when you finally went into the room, the polar bear destroyed it, but the little girl who was there came back with you. Was that like
That's a soul retrieval. Yeah. When part of you is missing.
Right. So my question is, was that the last component? In other words,
yes, it was. Yes,
that was
it was.
So yeah. Then there was a sense of completion now and wholeness, whereas before there was some.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a major event, and you said that just happened this October 20.
No. That was at your house.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
On the second reunion. The second reunion. So that was Lynn.
Lynn Hudson, who we interviewed. That's right. Where she does all that with spirit animal soul retrieval, because she spoke about all this, and I was thinking, I kind of felt.
Yeah, that was at your house.
I know. Okay, so that took place. Yeah, so it was like several years ago.
Yeah.
With Lynn Hudson. See, I didn't know any of this, even though it was at my house and in one of our bedrooms. But then, so that was the soul completion. So at that point, you felt. Oh, and was that maybe the source of how you opened up artistically?
Everything kind of happened in 2018.
Okay.
That's when everything
Okay. So
started again.
2015 was the reunion of all these
Okay.
ex-disciples
Yeah.
from the center in Queens. That was 2015 because we had just moved. Ann and I had just moved to Woodstock.
Right.
So that's when you came down and you brought
Yeah.
the berry throne and you brought all
Yeah.
all the lobsters, and it was great.
Oh, yeah.
And so then 3 years after that, then the art started to burgeon up and through.
Once Nancy told me what was going on, I got a book. I immediately got an outsider art book, and I started reading about self-taught artists. And because they're like you're kind of in a world of your own. You're making art, but it's not for the public,
Yeah.
you know, so to speak. If I did show it to anybody, it was so weird. They couldn't get it really.
No, right. And yet you're pretty famous and successful in this outsider art. So there's a whole genre of art known as outsider art.
Right. Yeah.
You fit right in. And so what's going on currently in your art career? So you're still with the gallery.
Well, the year that came out, I had a show. I had my own show in New York at the gallery.
In 23, in 2022.
Yeah. So I had a show. The magazine came out, and I was featured at the Outsider Art Fair. And that's every year. I've been
Right.
in that for 5 years now, and
Mhm.
it is a big deal. So
No, it is. I can tell, and
yeah,
now that I've become aware of outsider art, now all of a sudden I'm seeing, references to
yeah.
outsider art.
Because
So
there's Bill Trailer. He's one of the premier, old time outsider artists, and I'm hanging on the wall right next to him because the gallery it's a very old gallery. Hirschl and Adler. They're really an old, well-established gallery.
Hirschl and Adler, and they are on. Okay, yeah, that was right. East 57th Street, 41 East
Yeah.
57th Street.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty kind of ritzy type
Yeah.
of
Well,
area.
they sell a lot of stuff. They sell like furniture, really old furniture and paintings. And see, there's the Herschel and Adler, and then there's the modern. So there's like two of them. And the modern, I think they have like 30 artists that they handle at the modern. I'm only like one about 30.
And there's a nice little. Here's one
Yeah,
of the pictures. That's from the Herschel and
yeah,
Adler ad. And again, the creatures around you protecting you.
yeah.
Let me ask you a question about your time at the center. You were there for 5 or 7 years?
I think seven.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you get anything out of being at the center? Was there
Creatively, you mean? Well,
not
yeah,
only creatively, yes, but I mean, you obviously were experiencing this trauma while you were at the center, and I'm just curious to know if any of the teaching that the guru tried to pass on to you, even though we all left after a while, if that made some impact in helping work out, some of the things that were inside of you and give you more clarity on them.
I think ultimately it was traumatic. The marriage was traumatic. We never had any money. We had like zero money, and it was hard to keep up with it. After a while, it seemed to just take off. When more and more people came, like from Europe, and when they would come, and the first year I was there, we lived in 14 different places. He would just walk around the neighborhood and ask the Greek people, do you know anybody that has a room? And we'd have a few dollars. And I mean, and I was the first waitress at Anam Brahma.
I remember.
And, but I didn't stay at any of those jobs very long. I worked there, I waitressed, I did sewing for the Ranjana and that thing, and I did, and then I did the jewelry. Guru picked up, I think, 5 of us girls. We went to Winsted, Connecticut, to Jeanne and Granville. I don't know if you remember them, Connecticut disciples. And we went up there like for a week, and we stayed, and she taught us how to work with silver. And Guru bought a bunch of silver and a little bit of jewelry. He was going to open the gallery in Soho, you know. So we worked and we produced all this jewelry. And when that was done, Radha and I taught ourselves copper enameling down in the basement of their place with all the lead fumes of the kiln and the melting glass. And they had a pool, and we went out in the pool one night, and when it was dark and everything, we got in the pool, and there was 2 moons. There was 2 moons up in the sky. We were so fucked up from the fumes, you know, because once you get that kiln going and you're melting glass, you don't want to turn it off. So you go for 10, 12 hours, you know, and no ventilation. It's a wonder we're still alive. Oh.
Well, you know, the lack of money for those disciples who did not have outside jobs outside of Queens,
Yeah.
and worked either at Divine Enterprises for nothing,
Yeah.
or just kind of tried to get by with whatever scraps they had. But that kind of made you addicted to the path because there was nowhere to go. You really were lost in this maze of uncertainty,
yeah.
and the dependency on that, you know, really would add to whatever trauma you brought to the center. So I can understand how you weren't able to release it there. And your art, which is, you know, really in a way a divine creative force, has decided to be, you know, through your higher self, bring you to this place now where it seems that you've kind of done a lot of releasing. So that's great. That's great.
We also worked at the racetrack, at Belmont Racetrack at that point, and we lived on Long Island at a hunting farm for a while. We tried to incorporate horses into our lifestyle, but that didn't work out very good. But I was there when Secretariat was a 2-year-old.
Wow.
So I hot walked him one morning. He twisted his back when he came off the track, and they gave him to me, and I spent like an hour and a half cooling him down.
You're famous. That's incredible.
I know. And Riva Ridge, he was a 3-year-old. He won 2 out of 3 that year, and then the next year Secretariat won all 3.
Oh, I remember that Triple Crown.
Yeah.
He was one of the maybe one of the last Triple Crown winners, but I remember that.
He was the first one in like 25 years, I think.
Amazing.
And then there weren't that many girls working at the track at that time, and I also hot walked one of the only horses that ever beat Secretariat at the Aqueduct, one of the races, and then I got to walk one of the horses out, and he went on the track and he won the race. I mean, so, you know, and I get him off the track. He comes off the track. He won his race, and then I go cool him down and everything. It's really amazing, you know, experience that was. So,
you know, it's unfortunate that some of these things that are supposed to be helping you to wake up, to become enlightened, to expand your consciousness, in fact, becomes detrimental to your health, because there's a psychological barrier there that you just can't break down.
Yeah. And then Son of Sam was there. You know, we were scared.
1976, Son of Sam, terrorizing the whole New York City.
All the girls. And I don't know. It just I didn't like living in New York in the first place, and it got to be very competitive about who got invited over to the house and all that, and I had no desire to get attention from Guru. The complete opposite. I was like, oh, but
But that plays on your insecurity. And if you're insecure to begin with about some kind of a situation, a relationship, that
yeah.
kind of plays on your insecurity even more so. And,
And
I mean, a lot.
we were always leaving and coming back. Guru would go to India. That meant we would go to Andy's house in Connecticut and, and hang out with his family. I loved his family, He has 9 brothers and sisters, Catholic family. I loved his mother. And then just out of the blue, the phone would ring. It would be Guru. Hi, bad boy, what are you doing? You come back, Oh my God. And we'd go back to New York.
Did Andy know your father?
No. When I left home, they swore they would never let him in the house. I came back after 2 weeks that I left with him. I broke a window in my bedroom. My mother came out of the house with a double-barreled shotgun pointing at us. And I was shaking, and I got in front of him, and I'm like, and I broke a window. Well, they called the police. My father came home from work. They let me take a few of my things, and then that's how I left.
So she was just as culpable for your psychological traumas as your father was.
Yeah. Oh, my mother. Yeah, she was. Yeah. And the fact that she covered it up and, wouldn't one time, then after I left, she never helped me out. She just would observe me like floundering around in my life, from one situation to another, and, at one point she said, you could have had anybody you wanted, you could have been with anybody you wanted. And I thought, what? Because I lost a lot of weight. That's why I left the center, because of the weight thing, the weight club. But I was anorexic for a year after I left. I got down to 118 pounds. And then I got pregnant and gained it back.
And in the center.
But when I was thin, I was gorgeous. And my mother, but she didn't tell me right away, And after I started having babies, of course, I get heavy again, and she told me one day, oh, honey, you could have had anybody you wanted. And I thought, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that?
You tell me.
Because when I met Nat has money, I thought, well, you can be with a man who has nothing, or you could be with a man that has money, and I'm like, whoa, the light bulb went off, And I think that's why I was able to start my art when I met Nat, because I was financially secure. He raised my 3 children, and I helped him raise 2 girls of his own and 1 son that would come and visit us. He didn't have full-time custody, but I mean, I had food. We all had a place to live. We had medical care. We were settled in, and that was for 6 years. Nat and I were together, and then we split up for 2 years, and I went back with Andy. Nat and I were talking about, this is exactly how it happened. We were talking about how we were going to split up and everything. So I lit a candle one day and I said, let the spirits come in. And a little while later, the phone rang. It was Andrew.
Wow.
My mother, he was working in my hometown in Connecticut. He went to see my mother, who hated him. She let him in the house. She gave him my phone number, knowing that I'm with,
It's him calling now.
Andrew.
It's Andy. Hey, hi, Andy. Hi, Andy.
And so he called me up. I couldn't believe it. And he wanted to come and see, he came and see me, you know, and everything. Um, and then and Nat gave me money when we split up. He gave me $50,000.
So it sounds like you've had these guides at different points in your life, guiding you to. I like the one like let the spirits in, and then Andy.
Yeah, and he calls up. But
So
you
it
know,
seems
I like ran away from him, so we didn't really have closure. So that's why I figured, 21 some years later, we have to go through this and get some closure.
And did you get closure finally?
Yes, I
With the
did.
second,
Yes.
the second, and then so that was a little interlude, and then you went back with Nat.
Then yeah, in 2000. But while I was with him, we did non-denominational Christian healing, hands-on healing, and I had some really incredible experiences with that. That was really a good thing.
Do you have any type of belief system at this point? Are you an atheist? Is there nothing?
I
What is it?
believe, that we reincarnate, and I'm working on this, lifetime. I kind of knew what I was in for when I came in, and I'm working on this heavy duty stuff, and like when I die, I'll, be in the spirit world. Because actually, I don't know if you should put this in, but I studied with a psychic. I told you, I'm able to talk with dead people.
No, put it in.
Psychic would. I can do
put
that.
Put it in because this is good talking to dead people. Anybody special?
She was training me. She was training me to do it, but she turned out to be kind of loony. But she gave me an envelope. She handed me an envelope, and I told her about it. And she gave me something in a bag, and I figured out what that was without knowing what was in it. I mean, stuff like that. I was doing that like nothing. It was really weird, and it was a little bit scary. But yeah,
when I knew you at the center, you always had a glint in your eye. And to me, that's a sensation of light that emanates from inside of you. And you still have that glint. So, whatever karmic thing has happened over this incarnation of yours, it's kind of, it really has worked magic inside of you. And here you are now. You're still, filled with that light that I saw earlier when you were at the center. I mean, some people could walk away with, just this dead thing coming out of them. And
no, I feel connected. I have my whole life, really, because I've had like supernatural things happen to me, that you can't explain. The one story, I love this one. I had a sunflower garden one year, and I was out there one day, and I saw this beetle running on the ground, and he had these 3 little like lice on him, and he was tormented. They were just running round and round on him, and he was just running as fast as he could. And I felt so sorry for him. And later that night, he came to the window, the second floor window of my bedroom, this beetle.
How do you know it was the same beetle? How do you know
the same beetle with those things running around on him? And I let him in, and I was trying to figure out what to do, how to get those off of him. He was in a little jar, and I got a Q-tip and some alcohol, and I thought, well, I could maybe get them off with alcohol, but he didn't, he didn't like the smell of that. He kind of freaked out. So it just popped in my mind, honey. I went and got some honey, and I put the honey on him, and it didn't stick to him, but those little red lice they were just zapped. They were caught right in the honey. And he came out clean as a whistle, and I let him go.
That's an amazing story because you were 2 flights up.
I know. And the garden was way over there, and the window was way over here on this side of the, and but that's
That
how
is
you
no
would
that
have
is
the street.
that is no coincidence.
And I knew, get the honey, just so because I do hear voices. I always have, kind of, and like I see faces and things, so, and I would say I put it to the test quite a few times. I've like, give me a sign. I've asked many times in my life, give me a sign, and I wait for it and I'll get one. So I know I have that connection, and it's come out. I was into being hypnotized for a while. I did. I got a lot of a trauma got rid of by being hypnotized. That's really was cool for me, because he like you like solve your problems in your mind, kind of, and you resolve them, and then you're able to move on.
So it sounds like you're very open. You've worked out a tremendous amount of karma.
Hopefully.
You may end up in some paradise in your next life,
Oh, I hope so.
Well, I have to say that the shamanic journey, without the use of ayahuasca, but just a regular
Right.
shamanic
Yeah.
journey, is so powerful.
Yeah.
And
I did that for a while.
the ones that I've participated in were so revealing and so freeing. And I think people probably should try one
Yeah.
just once in their life. If they can find a real strong shamanic drummer practitioner who knows how to lead in a shamanic journey, it really is a wonderful therapy. And
I've done that. Yeah.
it's drugless. It's just
Right. Right.
using your own imagination, really, in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And there was a shaman from Mexico. I did sessions with her, and I did another woman, multiple people. I've done it, a few times. I've done a few drumming circles. Those are really cool. On a
Well,
lake. We drummed on a lake one time.
So, Jeannie, here's what I want to say. I got two things that I want to say. Number one, it sounds like you have done a tremendous amount of, let's call it karmic work or whatever, because you said this is why you came in this particular incarnation, in this particular
Yeah.
setting, to whatever, to work out karma. So I have two things. Number one, do you feel there's more work to do during this incarnation? Let's not talk about next incarnation. What about this? Is there more work to do in this?
I feel like if people got into my artwork and realized what was going on, I would like to do, like, speak to people, a group of people. I would be willing to go, and really I would get a lot out of talking about that, and I recommend that anybody, just if they are been traumatized, to write it down or draw or paint. Just don't worry about what it looks like. Nobody's good at anything in the beginning, you know what I mean? But to help it release. And don't be quiet. If you can talk to someone about what's happened to you, I highly recommend that. Don't keep this awful secret your whole life. Get it out. Try to get help.
And you're the
Bring it out in the light.
And you're the perfect example of what you're saying, because when you started drawing, you said you didn't. If I got you correctly, you didn't quite know what you were doing.
I know. I didn't.
And a few years later, you wind up with being having your own show in a very prestigious on East 57th Street Gallery. I mean, so this speaks to what you're saying. Like, just do it and see what emerges. Not everybody.
Like every artist's dream to be in New York.
And on 57th Street, that's like the main.
I know.
East 57th Street, the main galleries are there.
Yeah.
So I mean, so you are. I hope people watching this who have anything going on, like suppress, and they.
No, and they've been so complimentary to me. Like. I'll talk. I don't talk to Tom very often, but he'll like want new work before the next fair next year, and he'll just, some artists are like, oh, do you like this one or do you like that one? He'll take anything I do. He'll just say send it.
He's like your agent, let's say.
Yeah. Tom Parker.
So anybody who's in the city, in Manhattan, like for the holidays or anything,
Yeah.
East 57th Street. I'm gonna give the address, and we'll put the address in the podcast.
I don't think my art is up all the time, but if you go there and ask for me, they take you in the back and they'll show me all my artwork to you.
So it's right off Fifth Avenue. How you can't get any better than that. It's 40, my God, I don't believe this. 41 East 57th Street, and we go back to the days of the center. And I knew you guys, you and Rebu. I thought you were happy-go-lucky hippies. I didn't know anything about this, but there you, and now you're like a famous artist. So as our former guru would say, "Oi, from where to where?" So what do you see ahead for you?
I'll continue with my art. Yeah. Try new stuff with that.
And when's the next Outsider Art show?
It'll be I think it's the end of February, beginning of March.
I know it was in the spring.
Yeah, it's early. It's in the late winter almost.
Anything else? Is there anything else?
No, I guess not.
I feel good. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm really glad. You guys made it easy.
I mean, I feel good, and like this just feels complete. We heard your whole journey. It was great.
Yeah.
All the stuff, the trauma, but
well, I'm doing the tarot. That's my new thing. I might be like reading cards and
give me a reading.
Let me finish the class first.
I want a reading.
Okay, when I'm done.
Okay, when you're done, I'm gonna.
I just started. It's like my new thing, but my psychic and
tarot.
I'm hoping that'll all tie into that. That's what I'm doing lately.
Right, great.
Yeah, I'll be a card reader for maybe, I don't know.
Well, no, you can practice on me. You could do the course. We'll
yeah.
I love.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
And also look at the podcast we did with Lynn Hudson, because
I will. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see that.
There's a whole culture of art on tarot cards.
I know. I'm just finding that out.
Yeah, I have several decks, and each one really is quite imaginative. And yeah, you could get into drawing your own cards. That would be.
I know. I've said about that. My teacher is the one that did the Grateful Dead tarot. She tied all the cards to the Grateful Dead. You might want to check that out. It's quite amazing. She actually wrote the book, and her friend did the drawings for that. So she's a good teacher. She knows what she's talking about. So
I think this has been
really good.
I think this has really been great.
Hey, Jeanne, yeah. Thank you very much for it was a
welcome.
really
Thank
enlightening experience.
Great, delightful.
It was great to see you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
Love you.
Oh, we had everything in that podcast. And you know what? I realized that our podcasts are actually cleanses.
It's amazing. I felt so great going through all this stuff with Jeannie. Thank God I didn't have to go through the trauma. I did it vicariously. I was going through, oh my God. It was very cathartic for me. It was cathartic. Maybe I worked some of my karma off too. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I feel like, whoa, there's like a sense of, wow, it's just like a release of whatever, I don't know, a certain kind of energy, whatever. So it's so good. And the thing is, man, Jeannie has been through some real heavy duty stuff, and she's come out looking good, and
she has come out looking good. We've known her for a long time. And yeah, when she was at the center, it was you could see that she wasn't solidly there, that there was other stuff going on, and unless you make a commitment to something like that, you're really not going to get anything out of it.
No.
People come and go. They have their little experience, and unless they're really solid in the group, forget about that. You're going to have to go and find it on your own. So
absolutely,
which we did. We left and found something else. So.
Because I think there was that commitment there, and I think Jeanne had the commitment. Jeanne is committed to her art, and
Yes.
committed to her family and all. And I'll tell you that makes all the difference. And especially in the spiritual sense, if you're going to survive and come out, I mean, not survive necessarily, but come out good of a lot of spiritual experiences and traumas, you have to be, I believe, committed to taking it all the way and not stopping like, well, that wasn't so much fun. Let me try something else, something like non-spiritual, whatever. Let me go back to graduate school, something like that. No, I think you have to take it all the way. Like once you get your feet firmly on the path, not just stick your toe in. Once your feet are firmly planted on the path, I think you have to keep going, and take it all the way. And it sounds like Jeanne is on the way. I got that sense.
Well, you can't be successful in anything unless you commit 100% to it. I mean, really, if you find something that you like, commit to it and carry it until it doesn't, it either provides everything that you want or you find out that this is maybe not the road you want to take. So we're committed to Tim Kliss next week.
We are committed. And I think that's the best thing about our podcast. We are committed to providing entertainment and enlightenment, because, or at least, okay, we can't guarantee the enlightenment, but at least we can provide hopefully some entertainment. And I think our next guest next week, Tim Kliss, is a hilarious guy. In fact, I'm going to leave here and go to he's on a meeting. I'm going to tune in, and by the way, he is psyched to be on our podcast next week. He's psyched, so that's going to be fun. Okay, that's it for now, folks. Don't forget to tune in Seekers and Finders podcast on YouTube.
Take the step.